Good Sunday evening, high school sports fans. Joe Gillaway with Lingelstown Gazette Sports live from the Orchard Street studio, and this is our High School Hoops weekly recap show. I'll be joined momentarily by our panel of experts along with our special opening guest as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show, our Lingelstown Gazette Sports Platinum sponsors, and they are Rickabaz Electric, Payor Apparel, American Legion, Post 272, Sam Hartley Decking, Modern Imprint, Hoffman Ford, Ted's Bar and Grill, The Tire Mart, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Tonino's Pizza, Team PA, AAU Basketball, Underdog, Sports Bar and Grill, and Crystal Bob at Howard Hanna Real Estate. Thanks to those great local businesses for their continued support of Lingelstown Gazette Sports and our area student athletes. Upcoming on Gazette Sports Chat this coming Wednesday, we have 4 members of the Central Dauphin boys basketball team. We will advertise that and let you know who they are. But we're pretty excited. They got off to a really good start. I think 5-0 maybe, and really looking good. I was there Friday night. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. Then we're working on a girls wrestling podcast for you. Maybe try to get 4 girls in, one from 4 different schools. That would be exciting. And it's an exciting time for, girls wrestling, really. I mean, they just started last year as a sanctioned sport, and we'll get into that stuff within the next couple of weeks. So, and then next Sunday and every Sunday, of course, at 6 o'clock, we'll have what we're doing tonight, our weekly recap show. So just to introduce our panel, we have, our guest panelist would be Coach Demone Maxwell. Let's start with that. Harrisburg High legend, 1998 state champion as a player, and he's into his 3rd year now as Harrisburg High's head coach. Took over for another legend, Kirk Smallwood, the beginning of the 2022 season. Of course, we have Coach Ty Savercool with us again. We have Dave Berman, Travis Waters. We're going to try to get John Velios in here. John, can you hear us now?
I got you now, Joe.
All right, man. You're high maintenance, buddy. Man, right at the buzzer. And then we have first we have Coach Rick Attivo. And let's see, Coach Attivo, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years, but he's our opening guest. He's a Steelton, PA native who spent his high school playing career on some very talented Steel High basketball teams during the heyday of the program's existence. In 2015, he was handed the reins of the Lower Dauphin boys basketball program, and within 6 seasons helped to deliver the first 2 District 3 basketball championships in school history. His 2024-2025 Falcons team are off to a 2-2 start and have reached the teeth of what looks to be another challenging Mid-Penn Keystone Division season. Let's welcome in 10th year Lower Dauphin head coach Rick Attivo. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Man, 10 years, buddy. I know it's going to sound cliche, but didn't that go by quickly?
It did. It's wild because the picture you have on the Facebook page was I was almost 10 years, or was it 7 years ago? And my first thing my daughter said was, "Look how young you look."
It's still the best one I can find. You look good, man.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get us started. I'm just going to ask a couple questions, and then basically we all kind of take whoever wants to jump in and ask you a question or two. But you grew up in Steelton. I've been a big Steelton sports fan, but particularly basketball fan for ever since Rodney Brooken played. So we're talking mid 80s, a long time, 40 years. You come from a basketball family. What is the importance of the game of basketball in the community of Steelton? And let me just preface this by saying not many towns the size of Steelton, and for the purpose of this conversation, neighboring Highspire as well, can they say they had 3 high school basketball players the caliber of Dennis Stewart, Greg Manning, and Rodney Brooken within the span of 20 years. Right. I mean, those guys are all-timers, and you had 3 of them in 2 decades. Just talk briefly about Steelton, being a Steeltonian and being a basketball player, what it meant to you to be in that town.
Well, I credit my upbringing for who I am today. There's a lot of people will call it like old school or throwback, but, I was coached hard. 8 years old, 9 years old, we were coached hard and that's all I know. So that's kind of the way I approach things and kind of the way, like when I took the program over, that's kind of what we did. And there was a lot of influential coaches in my life, as I was growing up, from Pee Wee football to midget baseball to obviously to basketball. And don't forget, you also forgot. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Craig Brown, who
all right,
was
yeah,
Final
I
Four,
knew you were
Florida.
going there.
You know, he was on our team. He was a junior when we were all seniors, and Craig was a great teammate and somebody we enjoyed playing with. And of course, grew up watching Rod and Manning and you know, Stewart was a little bit before me, but just the town in general, when I was growing up, it was different. It was hardworking, instilled in you when you were young that, you know, you want something, you got to go work for it. You know, don't cry about it. Not everybody got a trophy. You know, there was winners and there was losers. So you learned how to win, and you learned the repercussions of losing. And then you by that you learned how to win. So I credit everything to my upbringing and my town. And you know, even to the point to where, you know, if you come to one of our games, you might hear that roller clap rolling.
We hear it, buddy.
So
yeah, we hear it.
I mean, that's what I know, and that's what I teach, and that's what I coach, and that's what I know. And trust me, the kids know it's not the Falcon clap. I'm just saying.
Not. No, it's not the Falcon clap.
No.
You know,
and the premise that 89 did start that, by the way. Jason Bryant, J-Rock.
Is that who started?
89, our senior year that's when it started. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And of course,
so there's a trivia question.
The Alberts for getting things started up on an individual night. You know what I mean? Yeah. They got the energy going in the gym, and whatever energy needed to be started after you guys took the floor.
That's it. Yeah.
You know,
Coach Eddie, God rest his soul.
I thought that those last 2 years of yours, I think you were 90, maybe a 1990 grad. Is that correct?
I was 89. I graduated with Fortney, Jason Bryant, Darren Burton.
Okay, so your last year was the, let's see, the Glen Mills or the Chester.
Chester. We lost to Chester at Reading in the state semis, in the state final 8, the semifinal, or whatever is that called, the
I was there
quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And when it was funny because we were the first Mid-Penn championship team. We won the first Mid-Penn championship in 89, and we were favorites to win the district in 89. And for years after we lost that to Manheim Township, when you would see, you know, the old Patriot News, when it was written, it would be like, Mid-Penn team has won Quad A championship except for 1989 when Manheim Township beat Steel High. And it was like every year we were getting bombarded with that. And of course, both my brothers, you know, have won districts and states. And so, you know, people make fun, you know, we joke around, but I'm gonna be honest with you. That motivates me, man. I'm still pissed that I'm the only Attivo without a state title. I'm not gonna lie. It pisses me off. So it kind of motivates me to do better and to coach harder. And that's why I'm still here. So
how many does Scott have? He has
2.
98 and 2000. Of course, Mike. I'm going to say this on the record, and I've told Lloyd Hill, I've told a bunch of the other guys that have titles. I still think the 92 team was the best.
They were solid.
Oh my gosh! But that's for another show. Okay, we're going to talk about some Lower Dauphin basketball here. And guys, you want to jump in? Does anybody have a question they want to ask Coach Attivo?
Real quick, can I show you?
Oh boy, we got the archives.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, that was back in the early, mid 80s.
May 17th, 87, Harrisburg Patriot article by Fred Crump.
Yeah, there was an issue that Fortney and myself did not reside technically in Stilton, even though we could throw a stone and hit the school.
Right.
The boundary said we actually lived in East Territory. So, but we went to parochial school. We never went to a public school. So there was no issue, but I guess there were some people complaining about it. And then next thing you know, there was an article written about it. So that's fun. That's pretty wild. When you look at that picture, you can see Mike and Scott. I mean, they look so young in that picture.
Yeah. I'm going to share that on the TA forum later.
So if Coach Savercool will not just step in, I'm going to segue a question for him, and then I'll let him take over. 2 weeks ago, I think it was, we had our first show, of the year, and we were talking about all the great coaches in the Keystone Division. You know, it's not the Commonwealth, but you know what? It doesn't have to be the Commonwealth. This is its own really strong division with
Right.
a lot of good coaches and a lot of quality athletes. And
Right.
he said that he thought that Coach Rick Attivo was the toughest guy to coach against, man. And there's a lot of listen, and I mean that, there's a lot of good coaches in that division. Coach Saber, cool. Talk a little bit about coaching against Rick Attivo.
I mean, I think from my perspective, it was the in-game adjustments. Maybe it was Mike. Maybe I'm giving you too much credit. Mike did all of the adjustments. I don't know, but the in-game adjustments was huge. And I kind of said, like, the Commonwealth, every school has their identity, and they play that brand of basketball every night. In my experience of coaching, the Keystone is like a team can play man-to-man their first 8 games of the season, and you prep for that. And next thing you know, you see a zone. It just came out of nowhere. And you don't see that as much in the Commonwealth as you do the Keystone, where like it's a complete identity shift from one night to the next. So, I mean, I guess how do you prepare in the Keystone knowing that you don't really know what's coming?
Yeah, so I can tell you this: I don't sleep much once the season starts. I'm a film addict. I was just watching Milton Hershey. I mean, we got Palmyra Monday, but Milton Hershey's Wednesday. So, we don't have the luxury of having a whole week to prepare like, some other sports. You might have 3 games in a week, so you got to get on stuff. But one of the things we always look for tendencies, and then we try and take away their team's first, second option. We look for little nuances in individual players, try and make other kids beat you that might not be able to, that might not have shown that they've stepped up over the course of the last few games. And when it comes to in-game adjustments, one of the things that we try and do is we try and feel it out first. Like, we'll run some things and see how it's defended. And then we always have counters to everything that we do. So if we run something and we see they're defending it a certain way, then we're going to be like, okay, well, this is going to be there next time we hit that. So we also look at the flow of the game. I mean, that's important. Sometimes the flow of the game dictates, what you're going to do defensively, what you're going to do offensively, if you're going to go quick, if you're going to maybe try and get a good possession. But we always try and honestly, Ty, it's a gut feeling. A lot of times, I'll have a scouting report detailed and we might do something that's not even in there. You know what I mean? Just because it's what I think is needed at that time. And what I see is going on at that time, or it might be a particular mismatch or something we can take advantage of. But yeah, it's different. Like, I'll tell you this right now, like I will, there's things that I rep at practice that we might not have shown. Like we haven't necessarily shown yet, but we're prepping it and we're repping it because I know at some point we're going to use it. Some people say, well, you're wasting time. Well, not really, because everything we do defensively is man-to-man principled. Your zone's only as good as your man. And then offensively, we have certain basic fundamentals or principles that we run, and everything's countered on that. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we try and teach our kids to be basketball players and read, and see the game versus just telling them what to do, and we were very fortunate in some of the years. We had some kids that really understood the game, and they were like coaches on the floor. And you're going to be successful when you got an extension of the coaching staff on the floor. And then recently, sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle. So we're still trying to get that. I think this group I have now is close to hopefully getting to reach their potential. It's definitely been quite the 4-year roller coaster with this group. But I think they're getting close. We're going to find out here this week, especially on with 2 league games this week. And we're going to see if we're definitely trending in the right direction. We had a tough one with Hershey. It was tied 51-51 with 7:09 to go in the game. And then the next thing you know, they go on a 10-0 run and that put the game away. So that's been our MO though, for the last couple of years. We'll play with anyone for 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters, but then we have those lulls, a 2-3 minute gap, where it's like, what are we doing? We look like a totally different team, and then next thing you know, go from being up 1 or down 2 or 1 possession to 3-4 possessions, and So we're trying to get over that. Hopefully with a senior group, we can get over that, and we'll see what happens. But, you know, Ty, honestly, it's a lot of gut stuff, you know, and it's preparation, but then based on what you feel like you need in that game. I mean, you know that you guys did a lot of stuff in game too. So yeah.
Coach, I have a question for you. Something I always really wanted to ask you. You brought in your younger brother Mike as an assistant right out of the gate, right? 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What is Mike's? Of course, Mike's a very experienced basketball guy.
Yeah.
He looks like almost like a head assistant. I mean, I know that that's probably not his title, but he's really in there mixing it up. And he's
my first assistant. Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of see that you rely on him, you know.
Yeah.
But, what is his value to your team, and what does he add when it comes to kind of strategy or interacting with the players? Is there any good cop, bad cop going on there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm the bad cop. No doubt about that. I am definitely the bad cop. Mike is the good cop. But here's what I know. Here's what I think we do well, and that is the kids know we care about them, and the kids know that we have their best interest, and the kids know that I'll do anything for them. You know, I'm hard on them, and I'm going to ride them a little bit, you know, and I'm going to coach them hard, but at the same time, they know that it's never personal. It's always just trying to get them to reach their potential, you know, and Mike brings Mike's very high energy. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I'm kind of intense, but Mike's high energy. So there is a little bit of a difference there in terms of our personalities. And, you know, strategically, I put him in charge of some things. And then we collaborate. We'll talk about things like I'll put him in charge of, say, zone offense. So if our zone offense sucks, then I fire it. You know what I mean? So that's what we do. Like we joke around with my youngest brother, Scott, that I think I fired Mike 9 times in the last 10 years. But, you know, but when you coach with family, it's going to be different. Yeah. Like we talk to each other different. Like sometimes it's I gotta tell you a funny story. We just came off a double overtime. This is my second year. We just came off a double overtime loss to McDevitt. The very next day, we're playing a very talented Hempfield team with that Moffitt kid and a couple other kids. You know, Moffitt played at Colgate or whatever. And we played, it was that Keystone shootout that we used to be in charge or being part of or whatever, Keystone Cup or whatever. And we're playing at Governor Mifflin, and it's halftime. And we're getting beat by like 17 or something, or maybe, I don't know, 12. We're losing by double digits. And I was livid. I'm like, I can't believe we're showing no heart, no effort, blah, blah. And Mike's like, it was Rick. They might be tired. We just came off a tough loss, blah, blah, blah. And we went at it in the hallway. And then Governor, like there's team, I forget who was, it might have been, I think it was Dallastown. Their teams walking by. I mean, and we're getting at, you know, we're brotherly, you know, no brotherly love at all.
Right.
And, but the locker room was right behind us. And it was so funny. And the locker room was like a 10 by 10 room. It was so tiny. And I walk in like nothing happened. And I'm like, okay, guys, blah, blah, blah. Well, the next day, one of the team captains comes up to me and goes, hey, coach, I just want you to know, we heard everything you guys said, and we were in there rolling.
Oh, wow. A little bit of levity, right?
So I always, it was always a disclaimer when it comes to Mike and myself, the way I say, listen, guys, we're going to talk to each other differently. So don't be offended by it. It's just who we are. So
anybody else want to jump in? We have time for probably one more good question. Anybody have a good one here for Coach Attivo?
A good one?
Well, not like we usually have bad ones, Coach. You know what I mean?
What do you think? I got to ask you, are you related to Aiden Attivo of Mifflin County, one of their
daughters? He's our cousin. So it would have been my grandfather's. How is it? It's my grandfather's. Oh, it's on my grandfather's side, obviously, and it's one of his like brothers, sisters, kids, or something. It's his kid. So he's like a second or third cousin to us.
Can I show you this picture real quick? This is from 1975.
And who are we looking at here, Dave?
I can't see it.
It's actually Mary Murphy was celebrating her 80th birthday. It looks like your dad in the back row with the mustache. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, it might be. I can't see it.
Oh, Okay. Well, there it is. So anyway,
let's just go with this, Coach Attivo. This year's team, I talked to you, I don't know, was it on the phone or we were just kind of talking about, you have some expectations for this team. You have some seniors. I think you're 2-2 now overall.
Yeah.
One loss in the Keystone Division. Do I have that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you go from here? Tell us just a little bit about the kind of the thumbprint of this team or the personality, and what do you think they have in the tank?
Well, as seniors, we're hoping that they start that the mental maturity and just the maturity in general starts to surface, meaning there shouldn't be any, unforced turnovers at the most unnecessary times, you know what I mean? Or shot selection should be good. They've seen everything over the course of the last 4 years. There's nothing that we haven't seen. So I really like our team captains, the kids that were voted our captains. We're hoping that, that they can kind of, help right the ship as well. The biggest thing that we need to start doing as a team, though, is the kids need to start holding themselves accountable, not just the coaching staff. I think that's very important. You have championship teams. Coaches don't have to monitor that stuff. It's the members of the team that are taking control of that and saying, "Yo, what are you doing?" You know what I mean? Like, or we need you to do this, or and not so many words. But the thumbprint on this team, hopefully, is going to be that we continue to get better defensively, and then. When you roll in some of the offensive skill positions that we have and some of the mismatches that we can create with teams, we're hoping that helps us, gets us into the district playoffs and see what happens from there. Once you're in, our philosophy has always been get in and then, the second or the third season starts. So
that's the way it works, Coach.
Yeah. So the expectation, it's funny because before we got there, it was just get in. And I was like, no, that's not good enough. I mean, you want to win. I mean, once you're in, you want to win. I mean,
right.
What's the point? So our goal is always once we're in, we want to make a run. I mean, that's just the mentality that you have to have. You got to make. And
you gave the school and the town a little taste of it, a few years back.
And it's funny because we won 2 and 3 years, and it's like,
right.
Man, I get used to this. But then sometimes, reality sets in, you get punched in the face a little bit. And then it's like, wow, you learn to appreciate those years. And it's funny because in 18-19, we were really good. And we fell a little short. We lost, of course, the Moon in overtime, had a look at the rim and missed the layup, basically.
State semifinals?
Yeah, that would have been to get into the semifinals.
Yeah, the quarters. Okay.
Yeah, and Moon ended up winning it all that year. And anyway, where I was going with that was, you learn it, you learn to taste it, and once you get that taste, I learned to appreciate that more. Like, I didn't really appreciate 18-19 until the first round of states when we played at Milton Hershey. We played Franklin Regional. And I remember it was a timeout. The kids come over to the bench, and I just got this look like, man, this is great. Mm-hmm. Like, I love these guys. You know what I mean? Like, I just want this to go on forever. But what is that, 20-some games in? You know what I mean? And 22 games in or 24 games in, So
you got there though. That's the important thing.
I've watched a lot of Lower Dauphin games, and I'm not sure I've ever seen you happy on the sidelines.
He didn't look all that loving.
I've seen a lot over the years, several dozen.
Well, like I said, I can be an intense guy, but I there is times where I do smile, believe it or not.
I think we all know that, Coach.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach Rick Attivo, 10th year head coach at Lower Dauphin High School. His boys are off to a 2-2 start. 2 big Keystone games once again this week. Palmyra at home and then at Milton Hershey. Yeah. And then the rubber has met the road, and it's time to you got a 1 loss in the Keystone, and time to win some big games. And
that's what we got to do. The last couple of years, we've won games we should have won, but we didn't win any games that were 50-50 games or people thought we couldn't win.
Right.
We got to get back to that, So, And I'm gonna tell you this right now, Milton Hershey's much improved. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying that flat out. They're much improved. That
Right.
3-19, yeah, you can throw that out the window. They're good. They're going to be all right.
Their game on TV the other night, I watched the replay when they County and then went overtime and Milton Hershey put out. Yeah, they got a lot of good young kids too, Milton.
They're young, they're big, and they're just going to keep getting better.
Well, we wish you well, Coach. If you ever want to come back on as a panelist and kind of hang out, we won't be pelting you with questions for 20 minutes next time.
That'd be great.
We really appreciate it, man.
Stay healthy.
Bro, good luck, man. Good luck to you.
Hard. Thank you.
You're an asset to this community. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Coach.
It's good seeing you, Coach Cyber. Cool. See you.
Take care.
All right, Rick.
Okay, that was fun, man. Another great interview. We picked the right guy there, right, Ty? Yeah, we picked the right guy. So let's just to let everybody know, we're the last segment here. We typically only have 2 segments, but the last segment here might be probably is the most important with respect to Coach. I'm not including the interview there, but probably more important than going down through these games. So let's talk about some of the bigger games of the week first, and then save some time for the roundtable discussion. And we're going to talk about kind of the migration of some of the better high school boys basketball programs from the urban areas to the suburban areas. I was talking to Coach Maxwell before. I haven't really come up with a name for it, but we all know what it is, okay? And
that's right.
So let's talk about some of the bigger games of the week here. Let's start with let's get you in here, Coach Maxwell. You guys got on in the W column, right?
Yes, sir.
Big win. Let's talk about your big win Friday night against State College.
First of all, appreciate you having me on here tonight.
Absolutely. We're excited, man.
So, I'm a 98 Kirk Smallwood, man-to-man, pressure defense guy, and I try to instill that into my team. But kind of like what Coach was talking about before he left the segment, there are some things that we work on outside of that to prepare just in case. And I realized in that game that playing man-to-man wasn't getting it done. So we switched to a 1-3-1. I think we were down 12 when we went to the 1-3-1. And, in a matter of time, it was a tie game. We was up 15 in the fourth quarter. So I don't know if I'm relying on that defense to be the one that we do, because I still do like to be a pressure, speed, because I feel our strengths is speed and agility.
Right.
And that we can kind of keep, picking away at that, allowing the football guys to get into basketball shape and in the basketball mindset. I think the best thing that happened was we went to a zone and they kind of play a zone in football, and you've seen it steal after steal after steal. And I was trying to tell my assistant, Don Ross, why would we start pressing full court? We get more steals out of the 1-3-1 than we was getting out of the press. Let's just stay with that. So
and you can
that's
keep
what we
yourself
decided to do.
Save some energy too if you're not pressing. If you're getting the results you're looking for without pressing, you may as well just keep that up, right?
Correct.
Can I say something here real quick? That's funny Don Ross said that, because at one of the football games, we were talking at one of the football games, and I was saying, oh, man, I wish they play a little more man-to-man. He said, I really like when they play zone. So I'm like, okay, you want to play zone in football, but you don't want to play zone in man, Don.
But it's just a culture. It's a cultural thing. And him and I discuss this all the time. What it took to be a Cougar when I played versus what it takes to play now, kind of why we're having this roundtable, is different. Because if some of those kids didn't go to those suburban Catholic schools, the competition to put on that Cougar blouse would be a lot more difficult.
Okay, so let's congratulations. Win some more, man. You got to win one before you can win 2 and 3 and more than that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So John and I, and we're not going to focus on this a whole lot, but we went out Friday night and watched Central Dauphin and Carlisle. So for the sake of we were there, and we can probably talk about, that was kind of a big boy game. You got a handful of local teams that are probably trying to vie to be the top team in the area. Cumberland Valley, Chambersburg, of course, and then Central Dauphin and Carlisle. And John, what do you think? Central Dauphin kind of escaped. Wayne Fletcher made a great play.
I think we're going to see a lot of these games, similar games,
I
Joe,
do
throughout
too,
the
man.
season. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it
I
could
mean-
easily. CD right now is 5-0.
Right.
Carlisle's 3-2. It could easily be the other way around, is what I'm saying, because these teams are all pretty solid.
Right.
Yeah, it looked like Carlisle was going to pull out a W that game. I mean, they were up 6 with like a minute or less than a minute to go, and
Was it really that much? I
yeah,
lost track.
Carlisle couldn't make their foul shots.
No, they couldn't
And
make free throws.
CD climbed right back in there. I mean, it was great coaching by Coach Fletcher to get them back into that game and with the win. I mean,
he made some good moves.
Yeah.
And some of the moves Coach Wayne Fletcher makes is just to do nothing and just knowing his players can probably handle the situation. You know, you can overcoach, that's for sure. And I don't want to, when I say that Carlisle could have easily won that game, I mean that. But Wayne Fletcher made a great play at the end. He identified he had a 6'8" guy covering him, and that guy was just kind of too big and I don't want to say unathletic, but just he didn't have the same foot speed as Wayne, and Wayne blew by him and made a really strong layup, almost like not a dunk, but just took it to the basket really hard. And but let's just say one thing: that Grant Smith, have you all seen or Parker Smith? Parker Smith. I'm sorry. Yeah, Grant's the
I don't know how many he finished with, Joe. He had
35.
30.
He had 35.
Yeah,
he had 35. What a player! Have you seen him, Coach Maxwell?
Not yet. We played against him last year.
Well, let me tell you, you're in for a treat, man. He's not from non-coach to coach. You better figure out something to stop this guy because I mean, listen, Central Dauphin, they're athletic. They have good size. They have good speed. They have good quickness. They couldn't figure him out. He had about 20 points in the late in the first half or early second half, and I said, they're not going to stop him. They're going to have to win despite him, you know? Right. So, you know, Parker Smith, he's one of the top players, of course, in the area, but I think that guy's going to – Ty, have you seen him, Coach Savercool? Have you seen –
when he was a sophomore. I didn't see him at all last year, but when he was a sophomore, we played against them in the Christmas tournament.
Yeah, he's
very athletic, sneaky athletic is what he is.
Yeah, he is.
You don't expect it, and it just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, man.
Yeah, he's sneaky athletic for sure. So let's just wrap that up. Central Dauphin 2-0 in the Commonwealth. Carlisle moves to 0-2 because they played Cumberland Valley and Central Dauphin, and now Central Dauphin has Chambersburg and Cumberland Valley this week. So you know, it's like John just said. There's going to be some losses by these Mid-Penn Commonwealth Division teams. Chambersburg over Cumberland Valley 64-62. I was going to mention some of the probably the more premier games of the last week. Milton Hershey 56, McDevitt 54. We did say that we had anticipated Milton Hershey would kind of be back on the map. They're 4-0 overall, 2-0 in the Keystone Division. Hershey over Mechanicsburg by 11. Hershey's 4-0.
Big win there, Joe.
Yeah, it's good luck, by the way, Coach Maxwell, to come on this show because we just had Paul Blackburn on, and man, he had a good week. He had a good week, that's for sure. We'll see what happens with Lower Dauphin. Susquehanna Township, just I think yesterday over York William Penn 78-63. I think Susquehanna Township kind of in their own way. They have their own way of going about things. I think they're pretty good. I think they can win some games.
They almost beat Trinity, Joe. Remember they lost to Trinity by 2.
I was there, and I was actually working for Penn Live as the play-by-play guy, and I watched the whole game, you know, intently. I watched every second of it, and you don't really realize how Susquehanna's going about it, but they just a lot of in-your-face defense. They just play hard. I don't know what else to say, and they almost pulled off a win against Trinity. So, Coach Avery Cloud, I think they're going to win some games. Susquehanna Township. Central Dauphin East, they lost to Altoona, man. And that's kind of a tough loss. And we don't, if anybody knows this show, we don't sit here on Sunday nights and talk negatively about anybody. And I'm not doing that. I'm just reporting that East has to get on track. Let's just put it that.
Let's say Altoona is better than we thought.
Well, I don't know. Let's hope so for East's sake, you know.
Yeah, I mean, East is 2-4 to start off the year, Joe. They played Central Dauphin tough for 3.5 quarters, just like Coach Attivo was talking about, you know, and then lost it late, you know. So, you know, they could turn things around here. They got time.
Absolutely. It's important that we mention that. Altoona had a young man by the name of Josh Lowry. He had a 3-pointer, not really at the buzzer, but with like a few seconds left, and he finished with 22 to lead all scorers. So anybody else want to throw any other games in there before we move on to our third segment here?
Steel High, Joe. Steel High beat Boiling Springs, and Boiling Spring was undefeated. They were 6-0 prior to that. So that's their first win. They're 1-1 on the year. Harrisburg, of course, coaches. You're 1-2 to start the year. I'm just looking down some of these notes I had written down. Big Spring is 5-0, undefeated.
I watched them play Susquehanna Township on Wednesday. A game that they should have won by more, and Hannah was able to kind of scrap their way back into it. But I said it, I think 2 weeks ago. They play a different brand of basketball than a lot of teams. So pretty much all zone. They have zero depth, but the five they have played well. I mean, their top guy is one of the better players in that division. Aiden Sally. He is phenomenal. But yeah, they're gonna run around in that division and make noise for sure. Surprise some teams as the country school that's joining the Capital.
Good. Do you guys care anything about are you worried about the Philadelphia Catholic League teams? I know that Central Dauphin beat Archbishop Ryan, that was huge. And it goes to show you the public can be private. We saw it last year, Parkland beating Roman in the state playoffs, even though Roman had 3 starters out because of the PIAA transfer rule. But Father Imhotep is loaded. And Joe, you wanted me to mention only 3 teams in 6A District 12 go to the states.
Yeah, that I didn't realize. I mean, that's the way the PIAA is set up in basketball.
And all on the East. They'll knock each other out. So you're going to have between Archbishop Wood, Roman Catholic, have Father Judge who beat Imhotep this weekend. And
they have to be good. It doesn't matter what happened there. Right. If they beat Imhotep, they're got to be good.
St. Joe's Prep is loaded with the McKee boys, Aaron sons, all 3 of them. And out of all those 6 or 7 teams, only 3 will go at 6A.
That's interesting.
That's 6A. Case Demone, you know.
How about if I promise you
Demone,
this,
bring them on.
Dave, how about if I promise you this? I promise you next week, as long as you can make it, we'll start getting into that District 1 and District 12 to give you an opportunity to kind of. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then we'll even let you talk about Mifflin County if you want for a minute. A minute. That's your limit. A minute. Okay. I mean, I'm not kicking you out of the conversation. I just want to move on to this roundtable discussion. So anyway, let's kind of just start out this way. I'm going to list some schools, some boys basketball programs. Now I'm 58 years old. I've been following, and those close to me will vouch for it, high school boys basketball since the late 70s. I was into it when I was 12 and 13 years old. So a lot of these schools had really successful boys basketball programs, some until recently. Steel High, Susquehanna Township, Central Dauphin East, York William Penn, J.P. McCaskey, which is Lancaster High School, Lebanon, Allentown had Allen and Deeriff, Chester, Reading. Now Reading just lost Rick Perez, and they went to the state semis last year. That Dave reminded us. But even like in the other bigger cities, Simon Gratz, Pittsburgh, Brashear, Pitt Shenley, which is now closed as a defunct school. All of these programs are struggling, and maybe it's just an ebb and flow thing, and they're ebbing right now. And maybe it's just a phase they're going through. But to me, it seems like it's been existing for long enough with some of these schools to call it a phenomenon, more than a phenomenon. You know, that there's some issues there. Some of these, they weren't all urban schools. Some of them are kind of suburban schools with urban demographics. You know, a lot of minorities, maybe some single family homes, 1-parent homes. So some of I would say I'm going to bring Demone in first because he coaches at one of them. I didn't mention Harrisburg. And in Demone's defense, things might be a little different there. You just took over. You're in your 3rd year. You're still trying to create the Demone Maxwell culture. Okay, we know that. And that's why I'm saying maybe that's going on at some of these other schools, and I'm just not aware of it. But I haven't seen any of these schools that I just mentioned vying for, even district titles except for Reading. So what are you seeing now that you've taken over, full time, and it's your program basically? You're at the helm. What are you seeing that are the biggest challenges at Harrisburg High, Coach?
I really don't see it as a challenge, and I start by saying that because I want volunteers. I don't want hostages. If your son want to go play somewhere else because he think the ice is colder over there, so be it. But what I have recognized is I think it's a trickle-down effect from college to AAU, and now it start to hit the urban communities. And what's happening, I think, is, if you play for a certain AAU team, you have access to go to schools that in the past you just didn't have access to go to. And I think because of that, kids go all over the place. Kids can go wherever. The Catholic schools, we have kids that should be playing at Harrisburg, playing at schools and other schools. But once again, that's their parents' choice. That's the kids' option. If that's where they want to send them, so be it. I'll coach the kids that want to put on a Cougar jersey, and we'll coach them up and we'll train them to understand what it takes to be a Cougar. And if they can fulfill that from a coach's standpoint, then they have opportunity to be a part of what we got going on.
How much of it do you think has to do now? Harrisburg has the benefit of Sci-Tech, and for those unaware or unfamiliar, Sci-Tech is a school that a lot of the athletes go to, and pardon me, but I'm just going to say some of the better students end up at Sci-Tech, right? You have to maintain a certain GPA, you have to stay out of trouble,
Correct.
You have to have good attendance.
Correct.
And it's a school that's located downtown. It's not connected to John Harris campus or anything like that. Do some of your better athletes, some of your better players go to Sci-Tech?
Yes, sir.
Would it be tougher if there was no Sci-Tech, like there isn't at these other schools I mentioned? Would it be tougher to keep them there if they had to go to Harrisburg? Some of them,
probably. And I only say that because it's the truth. It's the truth.
Right.
Like Sci-Tech, but there are other options. You got the HVLA, our online school. You got Cougar Academy. There's more than just John Harris and Sci-Tech.
Right.
There are other options. It's just sometimes, the parents make a decision on what they feel is best for their kid. I got a guy that plays for me now who initially went to Trinity. He realized that the ice wasn't colder at Trinity, and he's back home. I got a kid that started off at McDevitt. He realized it wasn't what he thought it was. Now he can't, so. And it's not like these guys were big time superstars when they went to these schools. It was just that they had that opportunity. And because they had that opportunity, they wanted to see.
Right.
But they realized that, playing for Harrisburg might mean a little bit more than playing for some of the other local schools. That the Catholic and other schools in this area.
I certainly see that with football, man. When I see somebody, a Harrisburg player who has transferred from another school and they're wearing that Cougars uniform and stepping onto Severance Field, I think to myself, man, they've got to really be enjoying that feeling maybe better than wherever they came from. It's just a whole different culture, a whole different feeling. Being in that Cougar uniform and representing Harrisburg High, I think, how about
just coming back home? They're
right.
not transferring into Harrisburg from they're just coming back home. They're
right.
Harrisburg kids, born and raised through the Harrisburg Little League programs and everything.
So Travis Waters, let me bring you in. You're an educator, first of all. You've been involved in education professionally for years, but you also played sports. You also coached. Do you think they're suffering? The more urban schools are suffering without as many leaders in the community. You used to have, Mr. So-and-so had a key to the Boys and Girls Club, and you could count on him opening up the door every day at 4:30, for decades and decades. Or the YMCA probably had a little more of an impactful presence to a lot of the kids. Has maybe the inner city schools or the inner city kids lost some of those connections?
I would say it depends. I can't speak for every community, but I think, Demone, you could talk about people like Cam, who the Y, Uptown Y, Sherman Cunningham. Some of those guys aren't around, but there are still people in the community who are doing things, with kids. I think so again, I can't speak for every community, But one of the things I've noticed, and I noticed this a while ago with the increase in AAU, and I think Coach Maxwell said this, is that when you have kids going to these AAU programs, a lot of times they have as much or more influence over the player or the student athlete than what the coach at the high school does. I noticed that, and I made this comment a few weeks ago too. So that's one of the things. And I made this comment a few weeks ago. I said that it seems like high school basketball or basketball in general has been what's the term I used? I forget the term I used. Oh man. Um Gentrified. It's been gentrified to a degree. And I mean that in respect that when in the past you could see a lot of kids coming from a Chester, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, being very successful. And the way you got better, the way iron sharpened iron was you played on the playground. And that's how you got better. And you earned your way on the court. Now you don't see that as much. Parents are spending so much money for specialized training, AAUs to get kids better and to a degree, except with the exception of some of those top tier kids in urban communities, it's left a lot of those kids behind, a lot of those programs behind.
We don't see
and
it. And John Velios, your son is at the age he just went through AAU. He played for years, and Ty Savercool, Coach Savercool, you had kids that played AAU. I didn't see, and I was with Charlie there at Team PA for a couple years. I didn't see many of the Harrisburg kids and the Steel High kids playing AAU. I just didn't see it. And
they can't afford it.
That's exactly right. That's what I have.
They can't afford it.
When some of the kids were younger, we're talking 6th, 7th grade, we had a couple kids from the Harrisburg area, and I would have to go pick up the kid, take him to the tournaments,
right.
Or another parent would have to do that. And everyone tried to help out as much as they could. I mean, we would be buying lunch and spending hotel rooms and stuff because they didn't have that support around them to help them. And then the older you get, the more that faded away even more. So, I mean, when they were younger, it seemed like the grandparents or the parents were willing to let us help them out. But then, like you said, the money thing factors in also. And I know Charlie did a lot to try to help kids out that didn't have the money, but I mean, it's only so far that can go.
Right.
Correct.
So my take on it is like this. The reason why basketball has exploded in the suburban areas, it ain't have nothing to do with where the kids go. It has to do with access. Their parents can afford to send them to specialized basketball coaches.
Exactly.
Their parents can afford to get them weight training and jumping machines and shooting machines. Their parents can afford to put them in AAU and things like that, where our kids, like Travis was alluding to earlier. See, I grew up at 7th and Radnor and 4th and Emerald, right? So when I was 12 years old, I was out there playing against Jeff Lewis and Mike Ford and Mike Grice and guys
Love Jeff
like
Lewis,
that.
Man. That's a good shout out. That's a good name.
But those
there.
were the guys that would immediately correct a poor decision I made on the court, where now you don't have that.
Right.
And so, with that going away, the inner city basketball, I have a team, and we just have to work harder. Like we started a Cougar Cub program. It starts from 3rd grade. So 3rd to 6th grade is free. The kids don't got to pay nothing. We practice twice a week, have games on Saturdays at John Harris. We just reach out to the community and get as many donations as we can. My former AD, Mr. Frederick Clark, he's a big sponsor of what we do, man. I greatly appreciate him. We building, and if you build it, they'll come.
What who qualifies for the Cougar Cub program? Is that just the Harrisburg? They have to be enrolled in a Harrisburg school. Is that the way that works?
Well, as long as 80% of those 150 boys are Harrisburg, then we're good. And
so talk about let the folks know who are watching. Maybe there's parents out there, or even kids that are watching this. How do they go about trying to enroll or figure out if they qualify?
Well, you could just, like I said, you just register. You just bring them to the gym. We'll be at John Harris Wednesday night, 6 to 8. and then we're typically at John Harris Saturday mornings from 10 to 12, where we do our practices and preparing the kids. We kind of use like a martial arts type of thing, right, where the kids receive different color wristbands based off of their ability. Just because you're in the third grade don't mean you should have to practice with the third grade guys.
Yeah.
If you're more advanced, then you go over there with the blue. You got a blue wristband, you practice over there.
Right.
So
can you send that info to Joe so we can post it?
Yeah, I'll post that if you want. I mean, if you have room for players, for kids, I'll help. Okay.
So the guy that runs that is Donald Ross.
Okay.
You already have his information.
Yes.
We know Don. Yeah.
Ross.
He could put you on my email chain, and you could receive the information when all the other 150 parents out there get it.
So you're trying to kind of come up with your own ideas as a way to combat what your kids aren't getting if you weren't doing this for them, right? I mean, like we've been talking about AAU, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Road College Prep Academy out in Linglestown Road,
right
across the street from Colonial Country Club. My friend Corey Dickerson owns and operates that. I mean, that is a great benefit. Ty, did you ever have any players that went there? Or I guess probably about the time you stepped away, they were probably just getting started. But I'm sure you're familiar with that. I mean, that's some really advanced training. It's and it costs, I think a lot of what I was told, a lot of the Central Dauphin girls go. Now, Central Dolphins won 5 district titles in the last 8 or 9 years. They're tough. They're strong. They're athletic. They're fat. And from what I was told, that's where they go. Like most of them go there and you see the results. You know what I mean? They're not just walking in and walking out, and you see what happens. So do you have Coach Maxwell, do you have, let's say, retired players, like guys your age or older or younger that are helping out with you?
Well, first of all, I got a great staff, right? I got 2-time state champ Walt Chavis as my head assistant.
Oh, that's a great guy there.
I got Ricky Morton, who was my teammate on the 98 state championship team. I got Franklin Wilson, who played for Smalls. He was on one of those district championship teams as my 7th, 8th grade coach. I have a great staff. I have Coach Floyd, Coach Harrison. You guys do a great job. And I think that it appears to be tough, but it don't seem, because we run the Cougar Cubs simultaneous to the season. And what happens is the players that are on the team have to come out to work with the kids in the Cougar Cub program.
Right.
Right. Like, so sending them to the road, that's good, but he can't prepare them to be Cougars. You have to have a different type of mentality.
Yeah, that's not what that's definitely not what he's doing. There's no banners on the wall for certain teams.
Right. I played out there. We played out there this summer.
You know what it's about. It's just more really fitness.
Training.
It's a training, fitness and training. Yeah, more than anything. It's not along the same lines as what you're doing.
Correct.
Right. So, Coach Savercool, let me bring you back in here, because I know you have a grasp on what we're talking about here. When you were at Cedar Cliff for 7 years, I believe, did you have any kids that weren't traditional Cedar Cliff kids that kind of the parents moved over to the West Shore from the East Shore? Is that something that you see parents and let's just face it, I mean, they're looking for better schools a lot of times, or schools that are ranked higher, rated better. Okay, I'm not making a decision what schools are better or worse, but is that something that you saw that they may not have grown up in the West Shore School District, but all of a sudden, they come in there 8th or 9th grade, 10th grade, and now they're Cedar Cliff guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've had it go both directions. I think if you're coaching high school basketball at a large school and you want to be competitive, you're going to have it both directions. It's unavoidable. I mean, Demone's going to have kids come in. He's going to have kids come out. I mean, it's kind of the day and age. And I think Demone talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the trickle-down effect of what these parents and players are seeing at, even you talk to pros, like you don't see pros stay with one team for their career. I mean, they're signing contracts and bouncing all over the place. College, you got the transfer portal, which is in the news every day. Like it's the trickle down effect. And in high school, people are trying to find that scholarship opportunity. They're trying to find money for education. And so as a parent, they're making a decision that they feel is in the best interest of their kid to position them to reach that goal. And sometimes it works. I mean, ultimately, I believe if you're good enough, they're going to find you, and it doesn't matter where you go. I've seen players go places. Their recruitment hasn't changed. They would end up where they're supposed to end up, and vice versa. So, yeah, I mean, we've had high profile players come in and high profile players leave. My second year, Gerald Jarman came in from Susquehanna Township. They moved into the district and one of the better players in the area. After my sixth season, Justin Hauser transferred to the Phelps School in Philadelphia. And they're two high-profile players that were able to play at the scholarship level. Justin has a scholarship at Penn State, and Gerald played at Clarion for a few years. So you see it. It's just, again, it's a kind of a society thing right now, and they're just they see it happen at the college level, and they're just trying to position their kid. But they feels best. You can't punish them for that. You try and give them advice. Most don't.
You have to move on.
They have their mind made up, and there's a lot of voices. There's a lot of voices in these parents' heads. AAU coaches, trainers, community people. Like, it's all over the place. And as high school coaches, we just kind of have to play the deck of cards that we've been dealt, and
that's right.
Try and build our culture.
Now, let me ask you this: is some of this have to do with the style of basketball? Like, Demone, you talked about, playing for Coach Smallwood when you first came on here 20 minutes ago. And, man, his defense, his man-to-man defenses, they were exhausting just watching from the stands. I mean, you would be tired when you walked out of the gym as a fan, okay? And I mean that. You'd be getting in your car like, what did I just see, And by and large, basketball isn't that way most times anymore. I mean, you look at Cumberland Valley, and you know how I feel, Ty and John, about their coach over there, Dave Vespignani. But they shoot the ball a lot. They move it around the perimeter. They've got 4, sometimes 5 guards on the floor. They're making 3-pointers. That's a different style. There was no Steph Curry when we were growing up. You know what I mean? There really wasn't. Are these suburban programs, some of them, benefiting from a different style of basketball? Anybody?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Travis, you go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, because everybody's kind of because schools in the city have been playing that style. So I don't see that. I don't really see that as the issue. But I did want to say one thing. I don't like to. And this is just me as an educator and someone who has followed the whole thing, who was a principal, superintendent, and actually follows the school funding lawsuit. And we say looking for better schools. I just don't like that term, because a lot of times they'll say they'll label a school failing, but all the schools that they're label failing are the schools we're talking about right now, and they've all been underfunded by our state government.
That's why I was walking on eggshells. I was trying to. I mean, this is the perception that the parents have, though. I'm not. Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
We have to flee these schools and get out there to those schools. I mean, now there's people that are fleeing some of the suburban schools to get even further away.
You're right. It's a hamster wheel. And then what happens is that a lot of people who are in those communities, by abandoning those communities, are actually exacerbating some of the issues that happen in those communities.
Right. How about Ty? Let me ask you this: is it tougher now? I was told, I'm friends with Dwan Lee, okay, and I knew him. I watched him coach. He did a great job for 10 years coaching Harrisburg girls. And what about the parents, having to interact with and handle the parents now? It might be for a different conversation, but it might not be. I was told that, that Dwan said, look, I never had problems with the parents because I was kind of an oasis for them. They liked the fact that they were able to trust their kids in my hands for 2 hours after school. Is it that way out in the suburbs by and large, or is there a little bit more of a struggle to deal with some of the parents, let's say?
No, I mean, it's at the end of the day, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's what gets the attention. And
Right.
by and large, in my 14 total years of coaching, 9 years as a head coach, I've had great parents, really good parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, the one or two that are a little bit more vocal, want the attention. I mean, it's a squeaky wheel, you know, complex, so to speak, and that's where the administrators are focus on. And even, you know, as a coach to a player, like, you've got players that are a little bit more high maintenance from a behavior perspective in school and things like. And you're putting attention on that player to try and make sure that they make the right decisions. And, you know, ultimately, you tend to players that just go and they get good grades and they work hard and they do all that stuff. So it's that balance. You always want to try and make sure you're still, you know, complimenting and appreciating those players that don't do well. But by and large, the parents are fine. It's just
right. They're not part of this whole issue at all, right? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So Dave Berman, I'm going to bring you in here, buddy, because you're a big Chester High School guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And part of what we're talking about here, it's not all just the AAU and the sports-specific training, and a lot of it's tied to demographics, but you have a lot of these private schools just coming in and cherry-picking your kids at Chester, right?
All over the Del Valley.
I mean,
Demone, and you guys will remember how great Penwood used to be, and Academy Park basketball used to be. And Chester has stayed afloat, though. I mean, they won a couple of back-to-back District 1 championships in 2021, then 22. Of course, we had to run the Archbishop Ryan in the state semi in 21, and then Imhotep blew us out in the state semis in 2022. Then two of our guys, Kevin Rucker, he transfers to Bonner after his sophomore year, and Lorenzo Jerkins transfers to Newman Goretti, and both were ruled ineligible to play in the postseason. Actually, Lorenzo was penalized all year, couldn't even play his junior year. And then this year, Bonner has three of our kids.
So let me.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. And then
there's enough talent there that you guys could vie for a state championship still if you had kept all your guys. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we know that.
Well, last year they were 20-5, and they lost to Reading, you know, in the last seconds
with a lot of their best players playing elsewhere. I say their players, the Chester kids, right? Why do they say they're leaving? Why do the Chester kids? You're there. I mean, you have your ear to the rail. You have you know what's going on. Why do they claim to be leaving? Let's put it that way.
I really don't get a good answer about that. They think they're going to go to a Philadelphia Catholic League school and get Division I. So Kevin Rucker is now playing junior college. Womack, we lost him too. Three of our guys. He went to Bonner. He was ineligible last year in the playoffs. Womack and Rucker are both at junior college. Lorenzo Jerkins, great kid, played last year, finally for Goretti. He did go, not Division I. He ended up, well, still a great program. He's at Westchester, Division II. So they think it's going to be Division I. And
that's a good answer. That's an important answer, because we just said 10 minutes ago that if you're playing well at pretty much any schools, you're going to get found, right? Right, Coach Maxwell? You don't have to go to Bonner or Roman Catholic or, you know, even Lower Marion. That's a public school.
The Archbishop Carroll boys basketball, if they don't win the state championship 4A this year, that's I feel like I'm doing an Aaron Gingrich thing here. I mean, they better win the state championship at 4A. Archbishop Carroll boys basketball, they got kids from all over the place. So, you know, and you know, I wish them the best. So just like Bonner football has a lot of Delco, you know, from it happens in football too, guys.
It saddens me. Okay, I know I should. I'm not on here to have a bleeding heart. Okay, I'm trying not to be that guy here. But when I hear about, you know, and I know that there's a lot of issues in Chester. You know, maybe some of the parents just want to get their kids. I mean, there's kids down there, athletes getting shot.
Town though.
I know. I get it.
Here. So what's the difference? I mean,
I'm saying maybe they just want their kids to get away for 7 or 8 or 9 hours a day. I don't know. 5 days a week.
You know what? A lot of these coaches, I announce the Chester Biddy League Championships every year in April on a Sunday. And look, the coaches love my Facebook post because I'm always posting. Chester has 2 stud freshman guards.
You're a great.
And hopefully we're worried right now. Excuse me?
You're great. You do a great job with.
Yeah.
You grew up there, and
Yeah.
you do a great job with representing that community and those
we're
kids.
We're worried that our kids, these two guards and this other freshmen we have, these coaches are going to come in and try to get them again, and it'll go on and on. But Chester's staying afloat, but the Academy Parks, the Penwoods. I'm just trying to think of the quote unquote inner city school that I can think. Now the Philadelphia Public League guys. That's except for Imhotep and maybe Constitution and those guys. Some of they're charter schools,
but they're not true publics. Okay, there are no true publics in Philadelphia anymore.
No, there's not the Simon Gratz, the Franklin Learning Centers, the West Philly back in the day.
Thank you for jumping in. That's where I was going next, and I'll let you take over, Trav. 1993 Simon Gratz team is known as maybe one of the top 10 to 20 or 25 high school boys basketball teams of all time. And that's in the whole country.
They had 6 Division I players, and nobody averaged more than 4. Right. No one averaged more than 14 points a game. Like the old Harrisburg teams.
There's not any more teams like that in Philadelphia.
No.
It would be decimated. This guy would be pulled away to here. These two would go over there. This one would go to Carroll. This one would go to. Am I right, Travis, about that? They're just.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and you'll never see those sold out gyms, at the Palestra, Simon Gratz versus Franklin Learning Center for the Public League Championship again.
Wow.
The West Philly game last night, I was PA announcer for 7 games in Mount Pleasant High School, Wilmington, Delaware. Yesterday was a Philly versus Delaware challenge. And West Philly looks unbelievable. And I'm glad that they kept, I talked to Coach, blank of his name right now. And I hope you can keep all your kids. He goes, it's a challenge every day. Because, they got you've seen the teams, but so we'll see what happens, guys. Just keep following me on Facebook.
Well, I think one of the things that's happened, you mentioned, parents wanting wanting those Division I scholarships. And I think what happens, you might have a 4 or 5 star kid at one of these Catholic schools. And they think that they're getting they're getting that Division I scholarship because they're going to a Catholic school. But then what happens, okay, you transfer there, then you end up at a Westchester, which is nothing wrong with that at all. But at the end of the day, if you're not a 5-star, 4-star athlete, you're not a big time prospect, you're not going to get a scholarship. And then the process is slower now with the transfer. You mentioned the transfer portal earlier. The process is slower now. I remember Kirk Small was saying that 6 years ago, transfer portal's killing kids out of high school.
So that's what happened, right? So college coaches, the first place they go is to the portal. The second place they go is to JUCOs, because most of those kids are already strong. They're men already. The last place they go to the prep schools, then they come to high schools. It's not going to be a lot of Division I scholarships given out unless you are a top dog. It's bottom line.
We don't get many. The best one or the most successful one we've had over the last few years, and Ty, help me with this. Stevie from Wilson. Stevie went to Marquette. We don't have many Stevie Mitchells, and he's doing very well too at Marquette.
Eli Brooks out of Spring Grove. He went to Michigan.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, but I mean, listen, and I'm not one of those people. I'm still engaged. I still embrace the game. I still love watching the kids. So I'm not one of those guys. It used to be this way, and I miss it. But those kind of guys, they didn't hang off. You couldn't pick them off of trees back in the day, but they were much more prevalent. Demone, you know that. There was just year in and year out, you had some high Division I talent. So why don't we see?
I wonder where Billy Owens would have played.
What's that?
Right.
I don't know, man. That was kind of. I like to think it was different there at Carlisle for those 4 years. That's a great question. But I think that Billy's father had a relationship with Dave Lebo, and I don't know. Who knows? That's a good question. Fair question.
Could be at Oak Hill Academy.
Yeah. Well, there was right after Billy is when the Oak Hill started, because I remember.
No, I'm saying if they had that talent now, Billy Owens would be at Oak Hill Academy, or he might be at Newman Goretti or something.
I think like the college destination opportunity, trying to like chase that dream, that's prevalent. Absolutely. I think the one thing that hurts basketball more than other sports is, and I've said this for years, how basketball, the parents just need to be a little bit more patient. It's a lot harder to get an offer in basketball, even if you're Division I capable as a freshman or sophomore. Because these college coaches they're not even thinking about a high school kid, let alone a sophomore in high school. Unless you're top 25 in the nation, you're probably not getting many offers as a sophomore. And then I think parents see football, and it happens a lot earlier in football. And it just
eighth grade.
Yeah, I mean, and it causes parents to become impatient in basketball, so they're pond hopping, trying to find greener grass or colder ice, as Demone like to say, and so like they're not willing to kind of wait their turn and kind of see the process out, because basketball, like, those offers really don't come in until now, but when you're senior, in between your junior senior year in basketball, just because of the portal, and you're lucky anymore.
What a smart take. That's a great take.
And there are fewer scholarships. There are fewer scholarships as well.
They also
not talking about a roster of 80 kids.
They listen to their friends. This is what we did with little Billy. You got to try this. We took little Billy and we did. Well, that doesn't mean that little Johnny's going to benefit from the same thing little Billy benefits from,
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really smart thing. That's something that I'm aware of and familiar with, Ty, but I don't think about that a whole lot, where the parents, they want their kids' career to be, and I'm talking about high school career, younger, to be microwaved. You know what I mean? And they don't want to kind of let it play out one practice at a time, one game at a time, one training session at a time, which that's what it usually takes, because we see, and I don't like seeing it, but we see kids go off to prep school, Coach Maxwell, and come back. You know what I mean? Or go from prep school to prep school to prep school. There was a kid that we had that was grew up in Harrisburg, and he's now a major, a Power 5 or major D, but he couldn't find the right fit. He kept going from prep school to prep school. I don't like to see a kid go through that, but that's what happens when parents kind of sometimes, give me some space here, are uninformed or underinformed, and they just want results right away,
Yeah.
Joe, I think the whole outline of this show, I mean, you just encapsulated. We got to circle back to things are never going to be like they were 30 years ago.
They're not. That's important, John. I'm glad. That's why I just tried to clear that up. I don't want people to think that I'm on this mission to return back to whatever. I'm not. I know it's just a different
world that we live in today, and in regards to athletics, education to I don't know whether the education part, is forgotten a little bit, to when people get obsessed with their kid and playing at the high school level and then hoping that they play at the college level. But we've all been involved with sports and for years and years and years. And, the end result usually isn't what was expected when the parents were in high school.
Correct.
So, things are never going to be the same. And we're just sitting here discussing why, and can we help to, make things a little bit better? But like Coach Maxwell said earlier in the show, I mean, he has to deal with what he has. He has to focus on his kids, and nothing he can do to control what's going on outside. He's trying to build from within. Right. And I know his coach, his assistant coach Ross, who coached at CD East for a long, long time, and he has not a long, long time, but he coached at the CD East for a while and was an assistant before under Coach Smallwood
for a long time. Yeah. That was a long time.
I mean, it's just basically like next up, we lose some, we get some. I mean, it's just the mentality that they have to go by.
How about Coach Smallwood right there at the end of his career? He took I don't know if it was a hit. Whatever Coach Smallwood felt about it, he felt about it. But he lost one young man that went off to a prep school within a year or two, and another one, they transferred him out to a suburban school. We're talking about James Moore, baby James, and Malachi Palmer. That was within a couple years, right, Demone?
Yes.
So they're the things that you're not. You never count your chickens, but you kind of look forward and say, "Oh man, I'm going to have this kid for a few years, and then this kid, and I'll have them playing together." And next thing you know, they're both gone for different reasons.
I have a kid like that now, but That's what they chose. I can't force them to pick me. They got that. That's you get the opportunity to pick.
Right.
And because you get the opportunity to pick, you get to pick what you feel is best for your child.
Yeah. Boy, you really have to.
Where's he now? Baby
McDevitt.
Baby James?
No, we're talking about.
No, Baby James.
We're talking about the freshman that's at McDevitt. I try not to use names.
Yeah, I ain't using no names, but I don't know
use the other kids' names because they're all out of high school and they're young men now.
Right.
But no, when the kids are still in high school, I try to. But yeah, there's a star or a future star should be at McDevitt. That's father's a Harrisburg guy, and
sorry, I dropped names. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you can drop.
It's all good.
What I do, and it's what Coach Maxwell. Obviously, I could tell that you kind of.
I picked up on that.
Yeah,
but Mr. Berman, I haven't seen him in a long time. I haven't seen him. I don't see him around this time of year. Well, this all year round this year, brothers, has been really, just focusing on trying to get the brand right. We got some talent. We just got to get it right.
John Allen at Coatesville, Tootie. He's in his third year, and he has turned it around. And he's keeping those kids away. Here's another school that goes after Chester County and Delaware County kids, Malvern Prep. So, and I love Romanchik. I love Paul, but he loves our kids too. So, but John's keeping we're 6'7". We have 2'6". Well, not we, but Coatesville's 2 6'7" guys and a 6'6" kid that are studs. And he's keeping them at the local school.
It's hard not to want. It's hard not to want your kid to go to a Malvern Prep or a Hill School or a West Town. There's $60,000-$70,000 a year schools, right, Ty?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, and you graduate from that school, you're going wherever you want to go for college. I mean, really, that's who they're handpicking. These colleges and universities, they're looking at those schools for kids. So I kind of understand it. I mean, if I had a kid that was an athlete, I would hope that I wouldn't choose a school for my kid just based on that. But let's face it, if you can have a kid that can graduate from Westtown or Malvern or something like that, that's hard to say no to that, I think.
How about Central York? They're keeping their guys, aren't they? Central York boys.
And they're getting the kids from the other schools too.
Can't do that.
No, they're moving. They're moving. I don't think if any Central York people heard that, I'm not saying that they're recruiting them away and that they're still living. A lot of the York City kids' parents are moving out to send their kids to Central York. Not
just York City, Baltimore City too.
Up to Central York.
Yeah,
it's not that far.
Yeah,
correct.
They're moving them in, and that's the district that they move into. It's cheaper to live here.
Yep.
It ain't that far away to get to work.
So supposedly it's a great school for racial harmony. It's a kind of nice mix of black and white kids from different economical backgrounds. If I'm misspeaking, interrupt me, but I've talked to people that their kids went there, that they have friends their kids went there, and they say it's a really good school, Central York. So
Demone, you're on top. Demone, you know your stuff, man. You're in the know.
Dave, I don't bring chumps on this show, man. What do you think?
I don't know everything, but I know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
So yeah, Central York's a great example of the school, the type of school that a lot of these kids are migrating to.
Well, I mean, you brought it up earlier, but Sci Tech is one of the top schools in the country.
Very good school.
Right.
Very good school.
So, like I said, the opportunity, and me and my coworkers talk about this. I have the same teacher certificate that every other teacher in this state has. It ain't that I skipped the process because I work at Harrisburg. That's not the case. We have the same certificates. You know what I mean? It's just that it's just sometimes the good stuff that goes on inside that school. The girl that went to Harvard, or the girl that went Ivy League, or the boy that went Ivy League from John Harris, or went to Penn State and went and got their master's. Those things just aren't highlighted as much as the negative things.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, and I totally agree. Anybody else, guys? This has been a really good conversation. I'm glad everybody had a chance to contribute. We've had an hour and 20-minute show. And Demone, I'm glad you and I had a chance to connect. That I have a chance to finally meet you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're always welcome to come on. This is what we do every Sunday night at 6:00.
That's great.
It's fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Travis, thank
time.
you. Travis, you still there? I lost his pick. He was with us the whole football season too, Demone.
Right.
He's kind of one of my guys. Travis.
No, I'm here. I'm on my phone, and I had the grands running around.
Any closing thoughts, Travis? Anything you'd like to see happen here? Any changes you'd like to see implemented, or?
No, I mean, there's really nothing to change, outside of, and this isn't an athletic thing, is fund our public schools the way they're supposed to be funded as the Pennsylvania Constitution calls for. But other than
Would
that,
you
but
tell
I
people
agree.
what you do? I'm sorry to
so
interrupt. I want people to know what you do. I always say you have a background in education. You work in education. What do you do?
I've worked in K.
We lost you.
Teacher, principal, assistant. Can you hear me now?
Now I can, yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, so
Yes.
I worked in K-12 education for 25 years. I was a principal, assistant superintendent, and now I teach educational leadership at Shippensburg University. I also was a chief recovery officer for the Harrisburg School District up until this past June, up until this past July, actually. So, but I do agree. So I'm not sure because I like I said, I'm on my phone, so the picture's small. But if someone said, this is the new normal, we're not going back to the way it was. I absolutely agree with that. So we have to function within how, and how it works now, how it operates now. It's like the transfer portal. I'm not a huge fan of. I like the transfer portal, but I think it's out of control. But we're not going back. I think things need to be changed with NIL, but we're not going back. So how do you operate and make things right for the new normal that we have right now?
How do you exist within this new normal? Rather than kicking and screaming and all that, that's not doing anything. You have to deal with the way things are laid out. Coach Savercool, any closing thoughts about this or anything else?
No,
John Bellios?
It's all about opportunity. Ultimately, that's what parents are leaning on in their decision. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's they're finding opportunity. You can't fault that. You just try and guide them, just like the 5 other people are guiding them.
Correct. John Bellios, anything?
No, it's nice to hear perspective from Coach Maxwell and
absolutely,
other guys' opinions and how things work. So
Dave
good
Berman.
show.
I just want to say I watched your game with Hazleton on TV, Demone, and those announcers, they loved your style. It was great. They gave you a lot of love.
I appreciate that.
I am so glad I had a chance to watch your teams play, Coach Maxwell. That was a lot of fun. We get there early, sit in the front row. And before that, I used to watch them when they played up at what's it called?
Camp
Curtin.
I played that.
Is that what you played? You played at Camp? You had to move your knees out of the way if you were sitting in the front row.
That's
to
right.
Make room for the kid inbounding the ball.
That's
I mean,
right.
literally, folks. If you were sitting there, you had to move.
Yeah, Mike Menser, public address.
That was the best. That was the best home court.
Maxwell.
That was the best. That was the best home court advantage ever. Yeah.
Oh, it was so hot in there. The greenhouse effect. You had so much. It was so sweltering in there, wasn't it?
Yes, the walls get wet.
That's where I first saw Jeff Lewis play. My God, I love that guy's game. He reminded me of like a Pearl Washington, same type of player. I thought, And what years was Jeff Lewis there? Early 80s?
84.
84.
Okay. Yeah.
Man, I love watching.
Well, Demone, you played against Jameer Nelson when Jameer was a sophomore.
Correct.
Like the second or third game, that was an unbelievable game, 77-74 in favor of the Cougars. I remember that. And then 90 the state quarterfinals in 96, you played against John Linehan.
Correct.
And you were a sophomore, and it was a lot of fouls in that game.
John Salmons.
Yeah. That was my senior year when we played them guys, man.
Yeah. A lot of fouls, Dave said.
So Chester pulled the game out, and then 96 quarterfinals, and then we lost to Kobe in overtime in the state semifinals, and Kobe won it all.
Right. Okay, fellas, thank you very much. For Ty Savercool, Dave Berman, Travis Waters, John Velios, our special guest panelist, Coach Demone Maxwell. His Cougars team got a big win this past Friday night. Hope it's the first of many. We want to thank once again Coach Rick Attivo from Lower Dauphin for joining us out of the gate as our opening guest. And this Wednesday, we have Central Dauphin boys, 4 members of the Central Dauphin boys basketball team. That's going to be on the other. I do 2 different, we do 2 different podcasts each week. This is one of them. And then the other one's called Gazette Sports Chat. We'll have them on this Wednesday. So, fellas, thank you very much. Philadelphia leading 27-13, under 3 minutes to go in the game against the Steelers. They have the ball 3rd and 2 at the Pittsburgh 10. So they'll probably get
consecutive losses by the Steelers in Philadelphia. Last time they won was at Franklin Field in 1965, and that is a true fact.
Let me thank you, Dave. Let me shout out Coach Rashad Macon because he's watching. He made a comment. Mike is the best pregame planner in high school. Mike, who are we talking about? Mike
Attivo.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I just thanked him for being on the show. Okay. Thank you, Rashad. And Rashad, we'll get you on here sometime. I promise. You know we will. So thank you, fellas, very much. Demone, I'll get something out. We're going to help you out.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys.
Appreciate
Coach.
Yep. Enjoy your week. The rest of your weekend, fellas.
Maxwell.
Don't want to miss a game, just tell Siri.